If you've watched the first video that goes over the suggested writing frames, this video puts those suggestions into practice. Now, this is a question that isn't based on business studies, it's just to show how the writing frames works to make sure that you're doing the analysis and so forth. Now, if the question was analyse the advantages of going to university, we're going to go over how we would answer this question related to the writing frame. This is a made-up case study. In the exams, you're going to have a much more detailed case study, but this is just a made-up case study so that the next part that we're going to go through makes a little bit more sense. Now, with the writing frame, this is going over, first of all, an analysis type question that's testing you on your content application and analysis. Now, the first thing that I suggest is that you have a definition. So we can see here the question that we had is analysing about the benefits of going to university. The question's about university, so therefore our definition is what a university is: an institute of higher education where students study and research. When you do a definition in the exam, it doesn't need to be textbook perfect as long as you're showing some knowledge of the particular topic that you're talking about. Now, once we've got a definition, the first thing we've got to do is get our content point across. Now, where the question is asking about two benefits of university, one benefit of going to university is gaining some kind of qualification. That could be a degree. So therefore, if we were writing this in the exam, we would be saying one benefit of going to university is gaining a qualification such as a degree. You don't need to do anything more than that. It's just as simple as that, just a line or two, very clearly what your content point is. The next thing that we need to do is make sure that we're applying it to the case study. So if you look back at the case study, one of the things that it says is that Chloe, who's 18, aspires to be a business manager. Well, that links directly to our content point about qualification, because if she can get the qualification and degree, that helps her to become a business manager. So taking that from the case means that it's directly applying to the case study. We've then got to go through our analysis, and we've got to have a free chain analysis. So therefore, taking that benefit, if she gains a qualification and degree, we know that she can then apply to be a business manager. That's our first analysis, but we do need to take that further. What we've got to look at is that analysis point and see what the impact of her being able to be a business manager can have on her individually. Now, the second analysis point in this case would be that if she can apply to be a business manager in the future, she's potentially going to be able to earn an income, and maybe a high income. Now, the third point that links onto that, from having a high income and earning an income, it means that she can save for her own place to live in the future, and she could live in London. Now, the reason this is in red is because in the case study it mentions about wanting to live in London, and therefore the ideal thing when you're analysing is trying to get that application into your analysis chains. So this, with the content, the application, the free chain analysis, and bringing some application, is going to get you the higher marks. Then we go on to doing our second paragraph. This question's about the benefits of university. So another benefit of going to university is meeting new friends. So therefore you'd say another benefit of going to university is that Chloe can potentially meet new friends. In the case study, so we're linking in there, it says that she's from a small village, not many people are at her own age, so therefore that would be a benefit for her specifically, meeting new friends. Now then, if we analyse that point, if she can meet new friends, that means that she's developing a new social group at university. The second point means that if she's got some social time, she can get the right mix between work and study. And therefore, if she's got that right mix, the benefit from that is that she potentially would be happy and motivated at university. Now, if this was your answer, we can see from the different colours, with black being content, red being application, and blue being analysis, that there is a good amount of all of that. And with good application, good analysis, that is going to get us high marks. Now, if we take this a step further, this is again a made-up question, made-up case study, but now it's business related, and we're going to look at doing an evaluation question. So therefore this covers content, application analysis and evaluation. You do need to make sure that to get full marks on the high mark questions, you are doing your evaluative comment and your conclusion. So, taking this question about cash flow forecast, you can see that the command word says to what extent. Now, the important thing with an evaluation question is we have to look at both sides of the story. So you need to bring in a positive cash flow forecast, you need to bring in a negative. If you just look at one side, one-sided argument, you are going to lose marks within the mark scheme. So the question is about cash flow forecast. Start with our definition, an estimate of cash inflow and outflow over a specific period of time. We then move on to our content point. The benefit of doing a cash flow forecast is that for X, Y, Z business that they can plan extra finance by having a look at their cash flow forecast. In the case study it says that they are taking out a loan of £5,000. Well, therefore it's worth mentioning, because if they're already thinking about taking out a loan, the benefit of doing cash flow forecast is that they can make sure that's the correct amount, they can make sure that the finance is correct in the first place. We're then analysing the point. So if it's a benefit to plan extra finance, they've got a loan that potentially taken out. If they go with doing a cash flow forecast, they can make sure that they haven't got any shortfall of cash. The benefit of that point, so number one in terms of our analysis, is that there's no shortfall of cash. The impact that means is that potentially they can make sure that they're paying suppliers, that they've got no situation where they can't pay suppliers, and therefore the products that they have will be in stock, and therefore that will make sure that they're keeping customers happy. So we can see that that is a free chain analysis. The difference with the evaluation is that we do then need to bring in some contradiction to the benefit that we're talking about. We now want to bring in our evaluative point, and this would be better if it is a contradiction to the argument that we've already made. So as I said in the first video, if you were the second debating team and you're trying to argue against the point that's been made by the first debating team, you might come up with the argument that whilst a cash flow forecast can be beneficial to plan extra finance, it is just a prediction. So therefore you can't see any unseen circumstances, and there might be more finance that's needed in the long run. We now need to bring in our second paragraph. This is going to be a paragraph that is looking at the negatives of doing a cash flow forecast. So in this case we're saying that it takes time to research and complete. We've now got to then make sure that we apply it to the case study. Now, in the case study it says that XYZ are a new business, so we can say they're a new business and potentially might have limited time because of that fact. We've then got to analyse the point. Now, if it's taken time for them to research and complete the cash flow forecast, we could say that there is an opportunity cost of that because there's less time for the business to spend on other areas. That's our first analysis point. We've then got to take on that further and think about the impact that that has on this business. We could say that there's less marketing, and that won't really help the business because there's already low customer numbers. There aren't very many clients. Now, again, you'll see that that's in red because it does say that within the case study. So we're not only analysing, but we're bringing in some application to make sure that we've got lots of application within our answer. The last thing that we could say is that if they have got less marketing and maybe low customer numbers, there is the potential that they might have even less sales revenue. Now, bringing in our evaluative point, we are saying that the problem with a cash flow forecast is that it takes time to research, and this could be a problem because we haven't got time for marketing and so forth. Well, if I was counter-arguing that, I could say, however, that most businesses fail due to cash flow, and therefore we could argue it's more important to look at the cash flow than maybe other areas like marketing. Now, once we've gone through and we've got our two ideas, we've then got to think about our conclusion. And I just want to emphasise again is that within questions, just bring in two ideas. You shouldn't be thinking about a third idea or a fourth idea, even if you've got more benefits or negatives of cash flow forecasts. Just pick two ideas. If you have lots of ideas, you're going to not have enough time to do enough application, enough analysis within the questions. Now, with the conclusion, we've got to make a decision first of all. Well, in this case, I'm concluding that cash flow forecasts are a benefit. I've then got to justify. With the justification, we've got to first of all make a brief summary of the argument that we had before, and what we did say before is that it would be a benefit because it's considering the future. If there's a shortfall, then XYZ could potentially get finance in place. Once I've summarised the point I've made very quickly, I might add an additional justification into that. And in this case, I'm saying that you can look at the shortfalls, but it also allows you to see particular months that could be an issue. So therefore, the opportunity to look at each month step by step to make sure that there are no problems. Once we've done our decision and justification, we're going to try to get the high marks for evaluation, so bringing in some however it depends on. The first thing I suggested in the first video is about bringing in an eternal factor. So in this case, we could say that cash flow is a benefit. However, how accurate the cash flow is depends on the expertise and the business knowledge. We could try to apply further again and suggest again that as a new business, this could potentially be limited. Last thing that we've got to do is then continue our conclusion a bit further, and then this time we're going to bring in an external factor. We could suggest that the economic changes such as interest rates could impact sales and costs, and how beneficial the cash flow forecast is in the future. Well, it all depends on things that we can't really have control of. So overall, we're saying cash flow is a benefit, but it will only be a benefit if it's done accurately, because the person doing it has expertise and business knowledge, and that there aren't any changes in the economic environment that are going to impact the forecast. Well, that's the end of this video. I hope that you found it some help.